Jason Hill here from OwlMtModels. This afternoon we'll be looking at how to install one of our 10002 tailgates with SP Gyralite marker and LED. The kit contains two small LEDs such as this. You can see the mark for the anode there on the back. Let's see if I can get that to focus a little bit better. So that way you can tell what polarity is. On DCC it doesn't really matter which way you're going to wire it because the LED will only function on one polarity. If you're going to run on analog, it will matter, and you will want to be able to mark it, set up the contacts so that the marker will only be lit when you're running forward. One option with analog is if it's going to be the wrong polarity, we can switch it more easily at the truck than changing the wiring in the LED in the marker casting itself. So to do the actual LED installation, what I usually do is I will take the LED on its little strip here and make 90-degree bends. This is going to be a little awkward for the camera to see. Basically I bend the two contacts back like this, so the LED, let's see if I can get it focused there. So the LED basically is at the end of the leads now, not in the middle of them. At this point, let's see if I can do this on one take. I have one here that's already been installed. It's a matter of personal preference. It doesn't matter which side up it goes. There's a small boss here on top of the Gyralite casting. On the bottom there's a hinge. It doesn't matter which way you do it. Personally, I go with the anode mark on the right side of the casting. So let's see which side I have here. Turn that over and press it in there with my fingernails. I should have shown first. Actually, I will pull that back out. First thing we do is the casting, the injection molding isn't necessarily perfect. There sometimes is a little bit of flash. So one thing I will do is go down the barrel of the lens, where the lens would be, and just ream it out with a drill bit. That helps get it up to the correct size so that the LED will go in without any issue. And the LED just drops right in, and I press that on there. I actually could be applying a drop of CA glue, but I don't really need to. You can see here from a couple more of these that I've done and pre-painted the Gyralite casting silver. Some railroads, I'm not sure what GN and some of the other railroads, Nickel Plate and so forth, did with theirs. Southern Pacific generally seems to have used silver as their standard marker color for these. After 1958 they could have been using the scarlet red. Before 1958 the people that I've talked to said that they could have been painted yellow for overland route assignments to match the UP Armor yellow, and some photos of the San Joaquin Daylight show the normal Ad Lake side markers in orange. So these could have been painted red for the San Joaquin Daylight to match the car ends. These are going to be going on heavyweight or green painted cars. So for my early 1950s, I'm going to be using silver. This is, by the way, Tamiya gloss aluminum, and it actually matches very nicely with Sharpie silver, which is what I've used to finish up the casting here on the side. It's going to be kind of hard for the camera to see that, I think, but the castings do need to be cleaned up when you cut them off of these sprues. So they are injection molded in black so that the light will not penetrate, but you will have to clean up the edges of these sprue injection points here. Okay, so here we have one of the heads that has been prepped. We have the LED already installed. And now I'm going to come in here with my flush cutters and see if I can get that in a nice view for the camera, and cut that. And we flip this over We come in on the other side and we cut that. And right now it's actually, I can let go of it. It's wedged in there right now between the two sprues. So I'm not twisting it off, I'm just pulling it now that it's been cut. You can see a small dark spot there where the paint has not gone in there, and because we're using the LED and the LED is already installed, I don't really want to shoot the silver again because I might cover over the LED and I don't really feel like doing that. So I plan to come back and just touch up that little spot with the Sharpie later. Also included in the kit are 2,000 ohm resistors, so these are 1K each. These will be your dropping resistors if you're going to be running at 12 to 14 volts for both analog and DCC. The LEDs need about 3 volts to be able to light. I've never been able to get these particular LEDs to light on 1.5 volts, so you're not going to be able to run standard AA or hearing aid battery, unfortunately. You'll have to have at least 3 volts. These 1,000 ohm resistors work very well. It gives a nice balanced amount of light. I have been able to find that you can go as high as 600 ohms, which gives a nearly blindingly bright light, and all the way down to 5,000 or 6,000 ohms. The LED will still give off a very dull glow. If someone wants to model using the actual Gyralite, either lighting only decoder or a lighting circuit for the effect, you may want to consider going as high as 600 ohm and replace these resistors just to give a real strong pop at the top of the strobe from the Gyralite. Let's see about gluing one of these in next. This next part is going to be a little bit tricky to do because I will need about 4 hands, and trying to keep it exposed for the camera is going to be tricky as well. One side of the Gyralite, or excuse me, the tailgate casting has a pocket in here, and it's you can see around the edge here the raised rim. That is actually designed to catch the back of the LED, which, if I get it in the right angle here, you should be able to see that it's hard to see, but right there the LED is actually protruding from the back of the casting slightly. Now I need to make sure that I have this thing the right side up. I make sure that the hinges are towards the bottom of the gate, and basically now I can slide the LED and the Gyralite into the tailgate using its 2 conductors. And once I get that back there, there's 2 ways to do this. I could use a drop of CA, and I could use a drop of Tamiya or Tester's liquid cement once I have it together like it is now and weld it in there. On this particular one, I think I will actually pull these apart and use a drop of CA that I will get presently. Alright, I don't know how easy it will be for the camera to see this, but there is a drop of CA in the middle of the casting at this point, the tailgate. And I will carefully try to slide the 2 conductors past it. And this is not going quite as easily. I think I actually misthreaded that. Not going quite as easily as the other take. There we go. Okay, so now I have that in there, and I'm going to use my fingernails to carefully hold it in place. The tailgate actually kind of acts as a spring here as you do this, so as I push on this, I'm making sure I don't break the tailgate, but it actually is fairly resilient under tension like this while the glue sets. And that already is pretty well cured. The next step is I can cut it off, or I could sit here and solder on the leads and the dropping resistors. One that I've already done here with it dry is this one here, and it's upside down. Let's turn that over. So here is one that's completed. Again, you can see the LED contacts coming out the back. I don't really want them there if I'm going to be mounting this in a vestibule, because you'll see it from above. If you're looking into the end of the car, you'll be able to see it. So usually what I'll do is I'll actually take these and I'll bend them out to the side so they'll go behind the end of the car, and you won't notice that they're there. Alright, so what we're going to do now is come in and tin the LED leads. If I can get a good angle here for the camera to see that. So this is one way to do it, where the LEDs are still in their Gyralite housing on the sprue. I can also come in and do it on the assembled version here. What I'm doing right now is applying some liquid flux to the areas where I want the tinning to go. There's other videos on, I'm sure, on how to tin, so I shouldn't need to go into that in too much detail. There we go. There's that one. I'm going to go ahead and take the dropping resistors off of the belt feed here and get those ready to tin and solder on. Now, as a reminder, the LEDs can, or I should say the resistors can get hot because they are working as a dropping resistor. So generally I do not put those in a place where they could contact the car body or damage the car. So again, I don't know how well the camera is going to be picking this up. Soldering and tinning these resistors isn't really, again, a very hard thing to do. Most of us probably already know how to do this from wiring our layouts and things like that. I will be getting the wire out here shortly and showing how to do that. I use TCS wire. I'm still looking for a bulk supplier, but that will be the next step, is adding the wire and soldering these to the tailgate. In fact, I think I'll just drop that one. And one challenge is you can't really feed that resistor through these tailgates. They just don't go through. So usually I plan, to have the parts all set up here ahead of time. Go ahead and solder that. I think that actually came out fairly well. So now, usually behind a passenger car body, these will be bent out. Oops, I don't know if I showed that very well. These will be bent out to the side, and then usually I'll bend this up and it'll come up into the top of the car up here. And actually, I don't think I tinned this one. That's kind of weird. Let's try tinning that again. I'm actually going to probably try to re-tin and solder that, clean that up a little bit. Yep, and that gets a little bit warm. Alright, this is a small 10 or 15 watt iron that I'm using here. It's actually pretty small. So our next step should be getting ready to cut this off of the sprue. So I'm going to move the iron out of the way. Alright, so now it comes time to cut this off. I am going to use my number 11 X-Acto blade, which is nice and sharp. I was thinking about using the dike cutters, but I don't think I'm going to be, flush cutters, I don't think I'm going to be using those. So what I'm doing here is going in and very carefully cutting the sprue, but I'm cutting it after these two rails come together here. If you do it, if you cut too far up, it'll actually unthread the bottom, and basically the stitching of the tailgate will come apart, and that's not a good thing. I'm doing a slicing cut here. I'm not just pushing through, because if I push through, I could twist or damage the tailgate assembly. And this should work. There we go. And maybe it didn't go through. top one. I haven't cut the top one yet. Okay, so here's this. Because this is one of the dark green painted ones, this will be going in the tailgate of, or the tail of one of the green passenger cars. And I believe I have the 2701 just above me here, and so we will probably look at installing it on the 2701. I should mention that the 2701 already has diaphragms installed from Hi-Tech. Sometimes I would prefer to do this without diaphragms installed and then install the diaphragm over the tailgate. Sometimes I find that easier. In this case, I won't be able to do it the easier way, so we'll just be doing it that way.